we'll bring in the guy that knows recruiting better than anyone else. That is Mr. Richard Davenport. Richard, Mace was not a guy that was recruited heavily out of high school. Like he said, he called himself Fat Mace back in the day. Went to prep school, went to Connor State, ended up at Arkansas, and is now has an opportunity to be drafted in the NBA. Does that show you, I mean, a lot of times 4- and 5-star guys pan out, but does that show you that recruiting rankings don't always signify what a player can be?
Yeah, I mean, a large part is up to the kid. Obviously, Mason, he was an extreme, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
As far as I mean, he was vastly overweight, in high school, and he like you said, transformed his body over a few years. I think he's around 240 at one time, something like that, and then obviously changed his diet and worked out and lowered his weight and got to junior college and one of the greatest stories in a long time, as far as recruiting, as far as just how he was at one time in high school and how he obviously was just totally changed everything. I mean, his attitude and his weight, and he eventually turned out to be one of the better players in recent Arkansas history.
Yeah. Speaking of recruiting, Richard was a guest on Primetime Preps earlier this week with Brad Caldwell and Bill Harshaw. It is the only Arkansas high school sports podcast in the state. Make sure you listen to that on our Hit That Line podcast network. Richard, you wrote a great piece on Aaron Outley out of Parkview earlier this week. What did you learn about the Arkansas commit?
He's a guy that I remember talking to Brad Bolding when he was a freshman. I went out to see him as a freshman, and he was comparing him to Keith Jackson, and that's pretty strong words. Obviously, he's not saying that he's going to turn out to be a Keith Jackson or anything like that, but he compared him as far as his ability and just his overall talent. And you look at him, and in one of the photos that we shot of him earlier in his high school career was just jumping over a player from Marion, and just kind of like a hurdle. He just jumped over him, and when you see something like that from a guy that's about 6'4", about 250 pounds. That's pretty impressive, and he's just a kid that I think obviously right now he's overcoming an injury as far as his knee. They probably won't be able to play again this year, but he's got the capability of really making a lot of noise on the next level, and he's just got a lot of natural ability.
And you look at that 6A West conference that Little Rock Parkview plays in with Greenwood and Lake Hamilton and Benton and Van Buren, a lot of great teams, Mountain Home in there. That is certainly a very tough conference this year that Parkview's tried to navigate, and they've missed a couple of games along the way as a team. And now we're down the last 2 weeks, and the playoff picture, I guess, is somewhat coming into focus. I think they're still trying to figure out what the brackets are even going to look like.
Man, tell me about it, Tommy. I mean, I don't know how you figure it out, especially the teams missed several games. Laurel Parkview, I think they missed 2, maybe 3 games because of COVID, and all the other teams. You're just trying to figure that out. I don't know how you figure it out. Yeah. I haven't really been paying much attention to it, to be honest with you, because I'm glad I don't have to deal with that.
Yeah, I feel for Lance Taylor and his staff down at the Arkansas Activities Association. I know teams can opt in or opt out of the playoffs. If they choose to do that here, maybe after this week, or I know they've extended that deadline, so that will maybe bring that into focus. We do have two weeks. Week 9 is this Friday, and one more week for the regular season before whatever the playoffs will look like begin. What stands out to you as we head to these final 2 weeks of high school football in our state?
Well, the North Little Rock Bryant game on Friday night. That's that's the one I think everybody's really paying attention to. You're already seeing tweets about if you can't go to the game, the live stream of that particular game. You got to go with Bryant just because of the recent history and how they dominated high school football in 7A over the last few years. And but at the same time, I mean, North Little Rock is definitely talented. I think it's the game of the year so far.
Richard Davenport with us here on the Morning Rush. Richard, when it comes to this Arkansas-Texas A&M game Saturday night, a lot of Texas kids are going to have their eyes on both of these schools. I know it's been a little different with Texas A&M being added to the SEC as of 2012. How important is it for the recruiting foothold in the state of Texas to beat the Aggies on Saturday night?
I think it definitely helps, especially if you're going head-to-head with Texas A&M for a particular kid. The 21 class is pretty much wrapped up, but I mean, you did have Keytron Jackson, the receiver from Texas. He did have a Texas A&M offer. You do go head-to-head with him occasionally for Texas kids and even out-of-state kids. A.J. Green, the running back for prospect from Oklahoma that Arkansas has as far as a commitment. He had a Texas A&M offer. Devwall Welly, when he chose Arkansas, he had a Texas A&M offer. There's definitely some head-to-head competition for kids, and when you're able to beat Texas A&M head-to-head, I mean, I'm not going to say that's a game changer for kids because there's so many other variables that go, so many other things that go into kids' decision, but it definitely helps.
Richard, let me ask you this: with Rakeem Boyd, he's 0-2 against his former team. How inspired do you think he will be in Kyle Field on Saturday night?
Oh, you know that's very personal for him. He still knows several of the guys that are on the team, and I'm sure that he's probably texted a few of them, and they're having some friendly going back and forth about the game, and he wants to be able to show that show his talents, and obviously help himself in the NFL draft. And you're able to do that against a very good team like Texas A&M. I mean, that's something that obviously can help your stock. Why not? I mean, I would imagine it's something that he's very fired up about.
Yeah. Hey, last one. We'll let you go. I saw where there was already talk about extending the dead period again and keeping coaches on campus, and the current way we're recruiting, extended for another length of time into next year. At what point does a lot of how we're doing business now recruiting wise and the expenses being saved by a lot of all these universities become maybe a new way of life for a bigger part of the year? Do you think that's something administrators and coaches are evaluating, that, hey, if we can make everyone do this might make more sense for us over the long term, is to adapt more of this and have fewer live periods where we're going out?
Well, especially for ADs with their budgets right now, I would imagine the next few years that they're already looking at their budgets and already cutting their budgets, and I would imagine the next few years they'll be looking at that and maybe being more aggressive in questioning some of the expenses from head coaches. But I think once this is all done, I think it'll go back to normal at some point whenever the budgets are back to what they used to be. But I think short term, I think there's going to be some there's going to be some questions from ADs about why the expenses are so much when you had a year, maybe at least 1 year, possibly 2 years having a major effect as far as just how you recruit, because you weren't able to go on the road and things of that nature. But I think long term, I don't think it'll have a huge effect. But obviously, we won't know for a few years.
Richard, we love talking football with you, but we also love talking food. And I know that it was chicken fried steak day earlier this week, and you had some fun with me, and Tommy did as well. What is the best chicken fried steak here in the state of Arkansas?
Tommy, are you amazed by this guy? I mean, I when I see his list, I'm going, I can't. I don't think I've eaten at any of these places. Yeah. I don't see how he comes up with all of these because. And going back to your question, I mean, there's several that as far as the chicken fried steak, but as time goes on, I've kind of slowed down on the chicken fried steak. As far as it just
to be 25 again.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, just to be able to eat everything this guy does. But I look at his list and I go, my gosh, how and he has so many lists, and obviously he's probably eaten at all these places. And I'm going, how in the world can you come up with these lists? Because in my lifetime, I haven't been to a lot of these places.
I had a great father who loved to take us different places. Brad Richardson gets the credit. Richard.
Wow. Well, I tell you what. Yeah. I mean, seriously. I mean. I love a good chicken fried steak, and but I probably wouldn't be a good as much as I love to eat. And I'm a foodie, believe me, I am. But man, some of your lists, I'm just like I've never been to these places, and I wouldn't be a good. Obviously, I would love to be able to go and join you on a lot of these places, but. I'm just not one of these type people that goes out and eat as much as I used to, I guess.
Yeah. We're just thinking about where we can get a stent, put in. He's just thinking about his next, cholesterol fix.
Next meal. So hey, listen, I had a good checkup at the doctor, so I think I'm okay there.
You wait 20. Yeah. Check back with me in 20 years.
Well, yeah, in about 10, 15 years, we may be talking stents with you, big guy.
Change a little bit. Richard was saying I needed a gastric bypass in a few years. So Richard, we always appreciate it, buddy. On a Recruiting Thursday. We'll talk next week. We'll talk some football, and I'll probably have a food question for you at the end as well.
I know you will.
All right.
Good stuff.
Stay dry out there.
All right, guys.
It's easy to float away right now.
Yeah, seriously. Sure. See you, buddy.
I think the rain's supposed to stop today, they say.
Hope so.
That's what I saw on the news last night.
Let's hope
At some point today, it's going to quit, and we're going to get like sunshine tomorrow.